Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to tell you how a senator who serves on the Senate Banking Committee has just stated on global TV that he is totally against funding for more rounds of stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment insurance payments, funding for the SBA's full disbursement of the $10,000 economic injury disaster loan grant to all legitimate small business applicants, any other grants to businesses, and any other form of monetary ammunition you need to defeat this pandemic so you can save and feed your families, save your businesses, keep your employees on payroll to ultimately save this country. Republican Senator Pat Toomey, representing the great state of Pennsylvania, my former home when I lived in the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard when I was in the U.S. Navy, went on CNBC today stating that before the death of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the chances of passing a proposal for the next round of stimulus were less than even. That were his words verbatim. They were less than even. Now, after the passing of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, it's even more unlikely that Congress will move to pass another round of stimulus because Congress will be focused on replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the Supreme Court. As you know, Democrats stand in adamant opposition to this replacement this close to the election. Senator Jeff Merkley, representing the state of Oregon, stated that there is no point for him to meet with the nominee for Justice of the Supreme Court, pretending that it is okay to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg this close to the election. Senator Bob Casey, representing Democrats, Senator Bob Casey, representing the state of Pennsylvania, stated that, again, that he does not want to meet with the nominee, especially knowing that this nominee will always vote the same way with any case that goes before this justice or this potential justice. Senator Matsi Hirono, representing the state of Hawaii, Democrat, stated that anything that the nominee has to say to the senator, she can say it to the senator under oath. CNBC reporter Andrew Ross Sorkin asked Senator Pat Toomey whether he was in the camp of lawmakers and public officials that think that some form of stimulus is actually needed, or in the other camp that thinks that the economy has recovered so well that there is no need for another round of stimulus. Senator Pat Toomey questioned the merits of another round stimulus, especially by talking about the provisions that lawmakers would have to package in the bill in order to get the Democrats on board, mainly the billions of dollars for state and local governments. As you know, Democrats have argued that they want close to $1 trillion to state and local governments to ensure that state and local governments do not lay off essential healthcare workers, police officers, firefighters, sanitation workers, transportation workers, teachers. Nonetheless, Senator Pat Toomey, he went on and cited Moody Analytics finding that states stand to suffer a revenue shortfall of anywhere from $250 billion to $600 billion. And states would only encounter the high end of this range if the virus or the pandemic were to deal a colossal second wave of infections on the country. So he also argued, he said, listen, the federal government, he stated, we have already given them $500 billion. We got to give them more money, something to that effect. He's totally against it. He also stated that he was against paying people more money to stay home than what they earned when they were working. And he also started to state that he stated that he was in support of having the federal government fund reopening of K through 12 schools and business liability protections. As you very well know, if you watch some of my previous videos, the Chamber of Commerce have pumped millions of dollars in favor of GOP candidates in federal races. So these lawmakers include funding for business liability protections, blocking people who work at these organizations or visit these organizations from filing lawsuits against these businesses. And on the other side, you have the Trial Lawyers Association, who have pumped millions of dollars in favor of Democrat candidates to ensure that they block any proposal for business liability protections. Andrew Ross Sorkin also asked the senator what did he think about funding the airlines with tens of billions of dollars to stop the impending layoffs. You know that the airlines plan to lay off tens of thousands of people now that the funding the federal government was providing to keep people on payroll is expiring on September 29th. He stated that airlines fell in the same bucket as the hospitality and restaurant industry, and they suffer because they all suffer from excess capacity. So what's going to happen if the federal government passes economic injury disaster loan grants, especially the full disbursement of the $10,000 economic injury disaster loan grant by the SBA to all legitimate small business applicants, another round of PPP forgivable, and all these businesses, they spend the money and then they got to come back for more money in a few months' time, because he stated that essentially that's what happened after the CARES Act. The logic behind the CARES Act was we'll provide a quick form of liquidity to all these businesses, and that will bridge them through this time, and they'll be sustainable to the point that they won't need any more money, and we can continue on without providing another round of stimulus. That was Pat Toomey's logic. So basically, he's stating he's against any other forms of grants. This surprised me because Senator Pat Toomey, if you remember correctly, he introduced a bill calling for $10,000 grants to businesses who have suffered damages due to rioting, due to looting, due to protests, etc. $10,000. But now I just read the bill that this senator introduced. It's S.4135, and it basically suffers from the same structural problems in the language, in the statutory language, that the CARES Act suffers, that provides all of this discretion to allow the Small Business Administration to disperse $1,000 per employee, $50 per employee, a slice of pumpkin pie per employee. Go ahead, this is what it reads. Emergency grant. An eligible entity that applies for a loan under subsection B1 may request that the administrator provide in advance, subject to paragraph 3, to the eligible entity not later than 10 days after the date on which the administrator receives an application from the eligible entity. Again, an eligible entity, meaning a small business, may request that the administrator provide in advance. I think I could do that now. I could say publicly, listen, Small Business Administration, give me a grant of $100,000. That doesn't, nowhere in the law does it read that the Small Business Administration has to provide that grant. It just reads that someone may request. The law is directing no one to do anything. It's not mandating. If you read the CARES Act, it suffers from the same problems in the statutory language. Again, small businesses, right? Again, during the cover period, an entity including for eligibility in subsection B, in other words, small businesses, small business concerns, private nonprofit, in response to the virus, may request that the administrator provide in advance that is subject to paragraph 3 in the amount requested by such applicant to such applicant within 3 days after the administrator received. Nowhere does it read that the administrator, the SBA, shall disperse a grant of $10,000. That's where S.4227 comes in and corrects that. The administrator shall provide to an applicant in advance under this section not later than 3 days after the applicant submits the application under paragraph 1, regardless of whether the applicant for a loan under section 7B2 of the Small Business Act has been approved by that date. So even in this bill, where he's calling for $10,000 for small businesses and probably hyping all these small business owners up, talking about, I'm for another $10,000 grant, but he's not structuring the statutory language in a way that forces or mandates the Small Business Administration disperses $10,000 grants. They could disperse any amount that they please because they still have the discretion to disperse any amount that they please, ladies and gentlemen. That's the problem with this bill. And now he's talking about he's totally against any grants whatsoever for businesses, any second or third rounds of stimulus checks, any enhanced unemployment insurance payments for people who desperately need it to save and feed their families, save their business, keep their employees on payroll, and save this country. I want you to hit this man up. Toomey, TOOMEY.senate.gov, and let him know that you demand that he stands in favor, especially if you're in the state of Pennsylvania, that he favors, that he supports more rounds of stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment insurance payments and grants, supports for the small businesses, most importantly, EIDL grants in the amount of $10,000, no less, for every legitimate small business applicant pursuant to S.4227 or the guts or the funding for that program. Again, he's at toomey.senate.gov. As I told you, we are unlike any other channel here on YouTube because we tell you the truth. Regardless, good or bad, I'm letting you know exactly what it is. All of these people that are standing against you receiving the monetary ammunition you need to save this country. Now, Brian Moynihan, CEO of Bank of America, stated that although credit card defaults are down and people's savings are up, they were actually higher when people just received their economic impact payments, their stimulus checks, and the enhanced unemployment insurance payments at the $600 mark. He argued that the economy, as I told you before, GDP suffered a 31.7% cut in the second quarter, and now it is expected to expand. The economy is expected to expand by 25%. So down from 100%, it dropped by around 30%. It dropped to 70%. Now expects to go up by 25% or 30%. So we'll be back around the 95% to get back to the 1 and 2% growth rate that the economy was enjoying before the pandemic. It's going to take some time. And in order to speed up this recovery, government has to move on another round of stimulus that is targeted to people who need it. Again, spending is up and there are all these improving economic indicators. Nonetheless, there's still over 8% of people that are unemployed. And these people are the ones that critically need the support in order to, again, save their families, feed their families, keep their employees on payroll. Because if all of this stops, nothing works. The economy is dead. Mark Cuban, he's also calling for $1,000 payments every 2 weeks to every American for a few months. I forgot how many months. But they have to spend the money on something in order to boost consumption. So all these business leaders, people that know more than all of these senators in regards to what is required to ensure that an economy flourishes, are calling for more rounds of stimulus. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, he testified before Congress yesterday. He's testifying today before the Senate Banking Committee. He's also going to call for more rounds of stimulus. Of course, he's going to say that it's not the administration's fault that they haven't passed that round. Nonetheless, the administration was the one that capped EIDL grants at $1,000 per employee. And also, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell calling for more rounds of stimulus, proving that all of the improving economic indicators, drops in the unemployment rate, increases in consumer spending, have all been due to support for people who drastically need it, support for the unemployed, support for small businesses, and he even clearly stated that some businesses are not in a position to take out more loans, that they need grants in order to get through this, beat the pandemic, and ultimately save this country. Let me know what you think. Drop your comments in the comment section below. Watch this video right here for more economic injury disaster loan grant and more stimulus check and enhanced unemployment insurance payment coverage. Click the like button if you like the video. Click the subscribe button to stay on top of my findings, where we report the truth, unlike anybody else on this platform will, and mobilize unlike anybody on this platform will. Moving the needle, opening up lines of communication with the United States Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship, mainstream media, and everybody that we need to contact to ensure that we stop at nothing until each and every one of you is funded with all the money for which you are eligible to save and feed your families, save your businesses, keep your employees on payroll, and to ultimately save this country. May God bless you. May God bless the United States of America and everybody else on this planet. Talk soon.